It's the 26th of August today. It's been a very nice day and it's a very nice evening, late evening here at Besthorpe Nature Reserve, just north of Newark. It's a place, as you know, if you watch these videos, that I do like to come to and to run a moth trap at. And we've had a nice sky. The orange hues to the clouds have subsided and are turning grey, and the sky will soon start to turn ever darker. But hopefully a decent night for moths this evening. The next few hours we'll see what happens, we'll see what comes in. Hopefully something a little bit special will turn up at the light. Time to get set up. This is the moment of anticipation, or the period of anticipation. Generally a short period of anticipation, but sometimes it can keep going for 3 or 4 hours or more. It has been known. There are 2 species I have in mind I would love to trap, and both have been recorded in the general area of this part of the River Trent over the last few days, one a number of times, and that's the European corn borer. It's a species that I've never seen before. One time a day it was a rare migrant, only turned up in Nottinghamshire relatively few years ago, but it's been recorded now in the South Muscombe area by Martin Kennywell, and been recorded a number of times, 4 on one occasion at South Muscombe. The other one is on Cottera semirubella, which is shaped like one of the grass veneers really, but it's often called rhubarb and custard because it's pink and yellow. And they've been recorded a number of times over the last sort of week or so. Either one of those in the trap would be the real highlight, but I'm quite happy with anything. Of course, I would love a migrant moth to drop into the trap. There seems to be quite a few around, bordered straw and scarce bordered straw amongst others. Getting quite excited now, yeah. Which is what sort of thinking about what could come in makes you. Well, it should do. If it doesn't, then don't bother trapping, because there's no point. If it doesn't make you excited, this hobby, and you don't get anything out of it, it's the same with any hobby, then just don't do it. And as you all know only too well, I absolutely love this. Methinks it's time to start and get set up. Well, start-up time was 20:45, and what a backdrop we have with a beautiful evening sky. There is some sort of cirrus stratus building up from the west by the looks of it, but it's a beautiful sort of northwestern and northern sky, very clear over there. No rain is forecast and no breeze is forecast too. Thankfully the breeze that we had today has died down and there is nothing. The perfect night for moth trapping in late August. Let's see what turns up. There's a scene reminiscent of the last time I trapped at Besthorpe here, with lots and lots of water veneers. They make up the majority of what you can see fluttering around on the sheet, and there are lots and lots of them. But there's another little army just waiting to the side. These, lots of these. I think these are ephemerata or mayflies. I know it's August, but there's lots of different species. And there's lots of them here. More than I've ever seen before, but there again, trapping at the side of water bodies in the Trent Valley has never been my thing in the past. I absolutely love it now, but lots of insects. And the sheet at the moment is just full of water veneers and these. Well, the macro moths are starting to make an appearance now, commonest of which at the moment are Cetaceous Hebrew, Character, Common Wainscot and Square Spot Rustic, and that's to be expected. There's lots of common wainscots around at the moment. People are catching really big numbers of common wainscots at other sites in the Trent Valley. One or two copper underwings in and a nice bit of colour from 3 centre-barred sallows, one of the typical sort of orange yellow coloured autumnal moths. While not nice to see because we know that autumn is coming, always nice because they add a nice bit of colour. So we'll see what else is going to come in. Well, among the ever-increasing number of moths to the light is the little moth that is in here. You may well be able to see it near the top, but I will be putting photos in because we have our first migrant, if you discount white point, of course, and white point now is very much breeding in Nottinghamshire and has been for a couple of years, in my opinion. And so white point is expected. Technically, I suppose we'll class it as still as a migratory species because that is what it's always been. But here is another one, but on a smaller scale, and this is my first of this year. It's a rusty dot pearl, Udea ferrugalis, and despite it being one of our commoner migrants to the UK, it isn't a species that you will catch every year by any means in Nottinghamshire, and I've gone years without trapping one of these, and this sneaked in and was sat quite quietly against the light. So nice to see. It has another species yet to this fantastic year for migrant moths. We may not have seen the numbers that we had in 2006, but we're certainly getting a wider range of species this year. So Udea ferrugalis, rusty dot pearl, is our first proper migrant of the evening, and lots of moths coming in. Absolutely fabulous. It's barely dark as well. And while I've got a bit of a chance, I'll quickly go through some of the moths that are on the sheet that I can film. And this is quite a dark centre-barred sallow. They're usually a bit more yellower than this, but occasionally they can be quite dark and almost uniform colour, less sort of two-tone than the normal form. And there's lots of these coming in, surprising number actually. So that's centre-barred sallow. We'll find something else, and this is one of many square spot rustic, very variable in coloration. You can get these in sort of a ground colour of very dark grey right through to almost a brick red, to be honest, but this is in most instances what you're going to get with square spot rustic, very, very common. And this time of year, August and in September, it'll be one of the commoner moths that you trap. And we'll have a quick look at this one, because this is a flounce rustic, and as you can see, the wings are being readied for flight again. It's a dull moth, to be honest. There's not a lot going for it, but it is quite well marked. Often is the focus of somebody's identification query, but we'll go for something a little bit more colourful and an old favourite of this channel. And of course I refer to the brimstone, which outshines the large yellow wandering in the lower right hand corner of the picture. Beautiful moth, the brimstone. Most unusual thing about the large yellow wandering is the fact that it's still. Normally they're charging around, sometimes they don't even settle until the temperature drops. So nice to actually get a view of one, but they are very variable in ground colour, and the females have different sort of markings than the males. So nice to get the two in the same shot. Coming up to 10:45. Very nice conditions, not a breath of wind, and it's very pleasantly mild, if not slightly warm still. And good numbers of moths are coming. It's dominated by the 3 or 4 species of square spot rustic, common wainscot, cetaceous Hebrew character. At least the number of water veneers has dropped now. They're still on the sheet, but they don't appear to be coming in the number that there were as we started to get dark. A couple of interesting moths have come in. Box tree moth seems very strange to me, trapping somewhere like this and getting box tree moth, although Besthorpe village isn't that far away, and I dare say it's resident in Besthorpe now. How that species has colonised the UK, or at least the southern part of the UK, is another amazing example of how invertebrates can quickly colonise and get a strong foothold in the UK. But some interesting micros have come. I've got a couple to take back, and there's a potential candidate. It's not well marked enough, and I can't see under the torchlight, for European corn borer, and that's one of the 2 species that I was hoping might drop in this evening at the start of the session. But say plenty of moths coming into the light, and a nice range of species. We're on to 36 species looking at the notebook, which is probably down a little bit on what I had at Missing Car the other night, but there's a lot more to come in yet than what's on the sheet. I have 2 pots. In one of the pots is a moth that I've dreamt of catching pretty much since I got into recording moths, and when I did get into recording moths some 20 something years ago, it was an incredibly rare species in the UK. It was a very rare migrant, just a few records a year along the south coast, and over the years it started to become increasingly more common and seen in better numbers. And in Nottinghamshire it started to occur a few years ago, and presumably as a migrant. It's sort of tentatively suspected as maybe being a breeding species, but the number of records Nottinghamshire gets would not lend credence to that idea. And one of these turned up just a couple of days ago at Misterton, and I have seen this species before, but I couldn't believe my eyes when Palpita vitrialis was on the sheet. It's the most stunningly beautiful moth. It's a real sort of pearly white winged moth. It's just at the leading edge of the wings there is a thin border of a beautiful brown. I saw my first one of these last year, I think it was, when I went to collect one to photograph for the website. It's a species which will probably start to become more regular in Nottinghamshire, mainly in urban areas. But one of these was caught last year, I think it was, at nearby Langford Lowfields. And this really is the most beautiful moth. The wings can be almost translucent on slightly worn specimens. And to be honest, it was very well camouflaged on the sheet. I nearly missed it. And then it was one of those moments when I saw it, I knew what it was, but I couldn't believe that it was sat on the sheet. Palpita vitrialis. I can't believe I've trapped one. What a beautiful moth. The other pot contains a moth that I've never trapped before. Even when Dilys was alive, we never trapped this moth. And it's a feathered gothic. It's too lively to show you, so you'll be looking at photographs. This was regarded as being common, but I don't think it's anywhere near common. There are no Sherwood Forest records. Dilys and I never turned it up in Sherwood Forest, and we never turned it up anywhere else that we trapped it either. And the only time I've seen this moth was when Phil Cadman and Ian Hunt brought me one down a number of years ago that was trapped at Lound, and I believe it was the only one that was trapped by the members of the Lound moth group at the time. So another stunning moth, which was brilliant enough, but it's been really sort of put into the shade by this beautiful Palpita vitrialis. I can't believe it. And people wonder why we do this. Here's the reason. As you can see, lots of activity on the sheet. Lots of moths coming in. Angle shades has just come in briefly. Straw underwing is knocking about. That's not a moth that I ever catch regularly. Light emerald, dusky thorn. Unusual, certainly in terms of date, I think, is a blackneck, a pristine blackneck. That's come in. Goldenrod pug. A couple of gold spots that are in. Lime speck pug. Lime speck pug's a species which has done really well this year. In fact, I don't think I've ever had so many in one single year as this year, which is nice to see, of course. So many species have done really well. Others haven't. There are some species which haven't done that well at all. And I still say it now, I include all of the yellow underwings in that. I've had about 8 or 9 large yellow underwings. I've had one lesser broad-bordered yellow underwing, and that's it in terms of yellow underwings. No lesser yellow underwings yet. It's hard to imagine. There's another Udea ferrogalis, another rusty dot pearl just come in. What a night this is turning out to be. I've no idea what else is going to drop in, but if there's ever a night where something's going to drop in, it's this one. I'm not slouching or forgetting my responsibilities as a moth trapper. I'm just having a minute if I lie down, it stops me sitting down, and I like to sometimes just lie down like this. I don't suppose many moth trappers do, but I like this angle. I'm absolutely knackered if I see something on the other side of the sheet that I need to catch. Though I can be like lightning at times. Very active sheet again. Some nice moths. Of all things, I've just had the second brood buff archers. I've never had second brood buff archers before, and that's a moth that I normally associate with June. It's not the only sort of partial second brood, of course. Blackneck is another one. What a strange year it is for turning up odd records. As I mentioned earlier, not all species have done well, although they did initially, and I'm talking about some of the ermines like spindle ermine and bird cherry ermine, willow ermine. All were in big numbers, all of the ermines, orchard ermine and apple ermine too, but especially spindle ermine and bird cherry ermine. Facebook was alive with photos of webbed over hedgerows and people saying that the hedgerows will be killed off. Well, they don't. It's not in a species' interest if it eats a particular plant to eradicate that plant. And I'm very surprised. I thought we'd get inundated later in the summer with ermines, but we haven't. Well, at least I haven't. There's one on the sheet here, which in all probability is likely, with the habitat being around, is likely to be orchard ermine. But there's been very few adults of bird cherry ermine and spindle ermine to say there was the amount of larvae, an incredible amount of larvae, more than normal. The hedgerows at Edwinstowe have completely recovered now. You would have no idea how they were a few months ago. I suppose I should have a walk around the sheet. Moths, they're starting to settle down a bit now, actually, or wandering off. Quite often they'll do that, especially some of your rustics and species like, square spot rustic. They will come in, land on the sheet, maybe have a bit of a wander and a flutter around, then they settle down, then after a while they go wandering off into the undergrowth. As I mentioned before, everything is free to leave this sheet. And what a sheet it's been this evening. Well, here's a smart thing, and one of two which has just appeared on the sheet. I say we're well past midnight now, and we've been joined by two absolutely gorgeous burnished brass. They really are a moth that lives up to the name, although in certain lights the coloration of those metallic scales can be more gold than brass, but it's a stunning thing, it really is. Under certain lights, some specimens can be, well, almost a bluey green instead of gold. It just depends how you catch the light on these, but that gold or brassy coloration is absolutely beautiful, and there's a nice touch by Mother Nature to give this moth, the top of the moth head, slight orange hue to the scales and hairs. That's continued onto the front of the thorax there, you can see. Similar to gold spot. Gold spot's a bit more bright and showy offy. But what a species this is. Absolutely stunning. Clifden Nonpareil. Good. Oh God, it was like a bat coming down. What a night. What a night. Everyone is catching Clifden Nonpareil at the moment. Yet again another moth which only a few years ago was, well, the moth of fantasies for anyone with an interest in moths. And now we're all catching them pretty much throughout the southern half of the country. What an enormous moth. And that for a Clifden Nonpareil is enormous. Just look at the size of that thing. Can't believe it. Look at that. There's been more moths tonight, which were the stuff of everybody's dreams to catch. You had to be on the south coast to have any chance, but now look. Just look at that. Often called the blue underwing for obvious reasons, but dear oh dear. The moths we have now, the ones that used to be, well, as I've mentioned, the stuff of dreams. We never dreamt we would get these in landlocked Nottinghamshire. And how an old lady's dropped in. Old lady's a big moth, but it's nothing to this. Absolutely nothing. What a moth. They're incredible things, they really are. I briefly thought about one of these fabulous moths, the Clifden Nonpareil, turning up. Say a few turned up in Nottinghamshire the last few days. But then the thought of one coming to light left my mind. And then all of a sudden, a normal shot of the scene and around the light, saw one of these just come spiralling in. As fresh as a daisy. As fresh a Clifden Nonpareil as you could ever wish to meet. Chances are it'll settle on the side of the box, which it seems to be doing now. What a moth for the night. Absolutely fabulous. Even the geese think so. Well, this is the most weird sensation that I've ever experienced. The sound, when it's vibrating its wings like that, it sounds like a distant engine, a heavy engine. If ever you get the opportunity to have a Clifden Nonpareil waltzing around on your head and on your face and wherever it wants to go, I urge you to take it. I think it's still there somewhere, I can't tell because my head of hair, of course. Still there. Wear your Clifden Nonpareil with pride is the motto. At least it's safe up there. Well, we've just gone 1 o'clock. A few more yellow underwings coming in actually. Even had a lesser yellow underwing first and only one of the night, but there's a few more large yellow underwings starting to come in. Can't take my eyes off the sheet. And I don't know whether to keep giving it another quarter of an hour or another half an hour. It's so easy to keep doing that, and then before you know where you are, it's 2 o'clock. Maybe on a night like this I ought to perhaps just stay that little bit longer. What else could come in? But you can continually be asking yourself that. What will come in next? I can't complain about what I've had. And I weigh up what I've had. Clifden Nonpareil to top the whole lot off, but numerous white points, rusty dot pearl, palpita vitrialis. What else? If that's not enough, possible European corn borer. We await the jury's decision on that in the morning. It's so addictive, moth trapping. I mean, there's moths still flying in, moths everywhere. In fact, it's more active now than it was an hour ago. And you never know what's going to drop in. It's like being a fisherman, in a way. You never know what's going to take your bait. You always have an idea of what's going to take your bait, but then there's always the chance that something totally unexpected could take it. And that's how it is with moth trapping. It is an absorbing pastime, and I love this. This is why I like staying with the trap. Always have done. It's always the way I've trapped and caught moths. Opening the trap in the morning, some ungodly hour of the morning during the summer, doesn't have any real appeal to me at all. And I've never done it at home, because I would want to be doing it every night. And the big reason why I stay with the light, always, as I mentioned, stayed with the light, is that you get the experience of when something comes in. And it's that experience, the joy of, like the Clifden Nonpareil, just all of a sudden spiralling down to the light, but then going round the other side of the light and seeing palpita vitrialis on the sheet. They're just fabulous moments, and it's the reason that I sit for hours at the light. It's a big draw, not just for the moths coming into the light, but for me to sit at the side of it and watch those moths come in to the light. It's so addictive. Well, the moths keep coming in. But it's gone 1:15. I'm going to have a steady pack up and then ultimately head for home. By the time that I've got everything packed away and unlocked the barrier again, it will be probably about 2 o'clock. Important for me is that the moths have a chance to move away and settle down before the first light of dawn appears. But what a night it's been. I think having Clifden Nonpareil come into the light late on, that's just completely capped the night off. It would have to be something ridiculously rare to top that. Even if that moth becomes common, which it is gradually becoming common. Most people have caught Clifden Nonpareil that trap regularly in Nottinghamshire now. It's still a cracking moth and still takes some beating, but on the same sheet, Palpita vitrialis. Unthinkable in Nottinghamshire many years ago, really. White point. The face of moth trapping is changing. It's so exciting that it is changing. New species coming in. Yes, we lose some species, but we gain different species. It's just an absolutely fabulous hobby. And it provides useful data. Don't forget, a record is completely useless unless it's sent in to your county recorder or your local biological record centre. That's what makes your record useful. So, time to pack up. It's just tempting to stay for another quarter of an hour though. But time to pack up.